Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1018, Saturday, January the 18th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, alrighty, well let's get started right here. Obviously Trump having a blast on Twitter on Friday. So Trump is trolling the Ayatollah, Khamenei. Absolutely hilarious. I mean, you know, Trump doesn't just tweet crazy stuff. I mean, there is a method to his madness. And the way that he can instigate something, the way that he does it with the American media, he throws stuff out there and he gets the media like, dogs chasing their tails. He completely almost controls them by setting them up and by feeding them this stuff. He knows how they're going to react, and he just takes them from one thing to another to another. It's like the cat chasing the laser beam. He's having a field day. This is what he does for entertainment. But, he also can use it. We saw him do it with Kim Jong-un, and now we're seeing him do it with the Ayatollah Khamenei. Of course, we have all those Iranians protesting on the streets. And so he's using his megaphone on social media to drive the wedge even farther. So he comes out and does these tweets saying how he supports the people of Iran, and he's tweaking Khamenei, about how he's handling that issue, and basically just running him down pretty much, and just playing him, and he actually gets Khamenei to have to respond to him. So he's actually sucked Ayatollah Khamenei into a Twitter war with him, and you're going to lose. You're going to lose that war with Donald Trump. He's the biggest, baddest troll on the planet. You are not going to touch this guy. He owns social media. So the fact that he was able to lure Khamenei into a Twitter battle, knowing good and well that's a fight he's going to lose, it just shows the genius of Trump and being able to use social media to manipulate his enemies. And then, when he's not trolling Khamenei, he goes over and starts trolling the Democrats, throwing the wedge deeper and deeper and deeper. There's already a big wedge there with the progressives versus the, so-called, I don't know, what you call them at this point. I don't know. It's a mixed bag of crazy leftists. The center left, the right left, the far left, the far left. I mean, I don't know. It's a bag of nuts, man. Take your pick. But anyway, he knows that there's this issue going on with Bernie and the establishment, and Bernie and Warren, and so Trump's throwing out the Twitter jabs, getting himself into it, driving the wedge deeper, and instigating things within the Democratic Party, creating more chaos and division in the Democratic Party. So he's it's just the way that he uses social media like a weapon to take out his opponents and keep them off balance. And it's masterful. We've never seen anything like this, and he is so effective at it. So he sends out this tweet to Khamenei, Ayatollah Khamenei: "Make Iran great again." Change your ways, change your behavior, and make Iran great again. So you can bet that there's now going to be Iranians out on the streets over the next couple of days and weeks with huge banners in Farsi that say, "Make Iran great again." You can just see it coming. You know it's coming. And all the while he's driving a wedge. While he's doing that, he's got that going on. He's driving the wedge even deeper between Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, between the Bernie supporters and the DNC. I mean, he just keeps people in complete turmoil. It's like I thought about this a few months back, and it just crossed my mind again. There's this phrase that many of us have heard about how the New World Order is able to operate and do all the nasty things they do, and there's this phrase, order out of chaos, where they create all this chaos, and out of the chaos they bring order. And in a lot of ways, I think Trump understands this order out of chaos, that the globalists and the New World Order types, how they do that. And I think that Trump is kind of looking at it and saying, I can do that too. I can create order out of chaos as well, because that's essentially what he does. He throws out tweets, he says things, does things that create massive amounts of chaos and disruptions, and then when the smoke clears, then he ends up looking level-headed. He ends up being the guy who was right, and then he accomplishes what he set out to do. He gets what he wanted, whether it's immigration, building the wall, whether it's tax cuts. It doesn't matter what it is. He uses this sort of creating this, he creates the chaos, and then out of the chaos, he sort of rises to the top and he wins. He gets what he wants, leaves his detractors and all the others completely confused and beleaguered, and they don't know what happened to him. And there's Trump. He got what he wanted. And they all look, they're just beaten, bloody, and bruised, and they don't even know how it all happened. So this is what he does. He is the order out of chaos for good, for humanity. Absolutely an extraordinary time to be alive. I so wish that my father and even my grandfather were alive today to see this. They would be so incredibly happy. It's just extraordinary what we're witnessing here. I hope you all are paying attention, and I hope you all are enjoying it as much as I am. Well, what do we have here? Sidney Powell was on WMAL this morning, and she now is saying that she does have a witness. She has a witness who says that the original 302 that the FBI DOJ says they can't find does exist, and that it says Flynn was honest with the interviewing agents, which were, of course, Peter's Been Stroking Us and Joe Pienka. Now, I don't know how much she can say, and my guess is she's not going to say much more than that. Whether that is in the documents that she sent, whether she's got a sworn statement, whether she's got, I don't know what she's got. But for her to go on WMAL and say very definitely that she has a witness. She has a witness who says the original 302 does exist, and that it says Flynn was honest with the agents. And of course, for this whole time, they keep pretending that they don't know where this 302 went. They can't seem to find it. And they say, well, we've got this other 302, though, that was done 2 weeks later, and it's basically the same thing. Yeah, we can't find the original, but we got the one that was done 2 weeks later. So, she's basically learned that this witness that she now has says there is an original 302, and that it does exist, and it says Flynn was honest with agents. And she's also learning that the one that was done 2 weeks later, which has been the one they've been using to replace the original that they say they can't find, is the one that apparently was edited by Lisa Page and some other folks from the small group. They edited that 302, and this is in her court filing. She has put this into the court filing as one of the various reasons for Flynn to reverse his guilty plea. And so for her to put that in the documents, I don't know if she has a sworn statement. I don't know what she's got, but for her to come on the radio and say that, and to say yes, it's in the documents that I presented to the court as part of Michael Flynn's decision to reverse his guilty plea. So I would think to put that in the court documents, she would have to have some sort of a sworn statement or something. So this is very interesting. We will certainly want to follow this because this goes in a lot of different directions. Not just the Flynn thing, but it goes to the Mueller team, the prosecution of Flynn, their interaction with the FBI and the DOJ as far as what they had, what documents they requested, what they've seen, what they didn't see, what the DOJ or FBI did or did not provide to Mueller, what they do or do not know that they have. I mean, there's a lot of, this thing goes in about 9 different directions when you throw this into the equation, that because this has just been floating out there for, well, over a year, longer than that actually, that people have been trying to get that original 302, and it's never surfaced. And we keep hearing, well, we don't know where it's at, but there was another one done 2 weeks later, and it's basically the same thing. That's what the DOJ is saying, and the FBI. But now we're getting a different story, and so we'll just have to see where this goes. But I find it hard to believe that Sidney Powell could just put that in the court document as just well, someone told me. That's not what she's saying. She's saying she is a witness. A witness. And to a lawyer like Sidney Powell, witness means someone with first-hand information. They either have seen it or they have copies of it. Or they know where the copy is, or they know where it is. I doubt she would just throw this out there. So, whether, maybe she can't get to it, but maybe this witness, because she's being blocked by the FBI and the DOJ, but if she's got a witness who can say to the judge in a sworn statement, oh yeah, it exists, and you'll find it here. It's just that the DOJ and the FBI are pretending that they can't find it, because they know it would show the truth, which is that Flynn did not lie, and their entire case, not only is their case blown up, but it shows that their entire case was built on fraud, and that they deprived the court and Michael Flynn and his attorney of this Brady material that would have blown up their case and exonerated Flynn. This would be this would get the prosecution team into a criminal situation, a felony, a big felony. So this thing, I just get the feeling I get the feeling Flynn's not going to serve a single minute in jail, but it's also possible that this thing could really blow up badly. If this document shows up, if this original 302 shows up, if she's found someone who can tell a judge it exists, it's there, the FBI and DOJ just ain't giving it to you. If that is the case, and the judge is able to force this document to be revealed, oh man, that's going to be hell to pay for everyone who knew and participated in that. That is a big fat no-no. We'll continue to watch that. That's very important. We also have this wacko commie that we've been talking about the last couple days in regards to the Project Veritas video. This Kyle Jurek, or Urich, however they pronounce his name, he's still on the Sanders campaign. They still have not removed him from the campaign. They bailed him out of jail and he's back on the campaign. And of course, what's the question now is, they bailed him out of jail. Did they do that with campaign finance funds? Because if they did, that's illegal. And so in order to get an answer to some of these questions, Veritas went and tracked down Sanders campaign's Iowa director, the director over the state of Iowa. Her name is Misty Rebick. And so they basically did what Veritas does. They came up to her on the street with a camera and attempted to get her to answer some questions. Of course, she's completely silent. She was with two other people, and they definitely did not want to talk. They just wanted to get away from Project Veritas and their cameras. That tells you a lot. That tells you an awful lot. Because that's not what you do. That's not what, you can't do that in politics if you want to be effective. You can't run away from questions. That's part of being a politician. That's why it can be a tough job, because you get asked a lot of questions you probably don't want to answer, and you better find a very smooth way of telling a very, very slick lie, or you tell the truth. But most of the time politicians have to find a slick way of telling a lie, because if they tell the truth, well, they're politically dead in the water. And if they were to tell the truth here, oh yeah, he's still on the campaign, and oh yeah, we use campaign finance funds from the campaign to bail him out of jail, that's not what you want to say on video. That certainly is not what you want to say on video, especially at a time when the DNC and the corporate Democrats are looking for anything they can do to damage Bernie. So, with the crazy people that he has around him, they're damaging him more than the DNC ever could. And the worst thing that she could have done is react the way that she did to Project Veritas, because now she just looks totally guilty. We'll continue to follow that story. We are continuing to see these polls showing Trump with 30% positive approval in the black community. That doesn't mean 30% are going to vote for Trump. I don't know how many are going to vote for Trump. But let's just say, because these are not questions, are you going to vote for Trump? These are just approval ratings. So an approval rating doesn't necessarily coincide with a vote or turn into a vote. But when you consider that in 2016, Trump got only 8% of the black vote, and you continue to see poll after poll after poll showing his support at 30% of people who approve of him in the black community, and we have YouTube is just literally exploding with YouTubers who are black, who are Trump supporters. I can't go down the list and name them all, but I mean, you know, the main ones. Diamond and Silk, probably the most popular. I'll be just going through YouTube sometimes, and I'm finding more and more and more black YouTubers, male and female, who are doing YouTube videos trying to get the word out to other blacks around the country. Hey, you gotta stop watching CNN and MSNBC and start focusing on what Trump is doing for us. And there's a lot of really smart, good black people on YouTube who are good communicators, who articulate their message very well. And I stumble onto these all the time. And I certainly wasn't stumbling onto them in 2015 and 2016. This has just been in the last year and a half or so that I'm seeing more and more and more black YouTubers who are Trump supporters, who are really out there getting the message out. And there's a lot of them. And I don't know, 30%. I wouldn't want to, bet that he's going to get 30% of the black vote. But let's just say he gets half. Let's just say that 30% approve of him. Let's say half of them vote. That's 15%. That would be almost double what he got in 2016. Now, there has been this sort of belief out there for many, many years, and I've been hearing this for a very long time, which is that it's always been said that if the Republicans could ever find a way to crack 20% of the black vote, just 20% of the black vote, that the Democrats would not be able to win a national election ever again until they found where they were going to find that other 20%. And keep in mind, the decision that the Democrats made back in 2016 was to give up the blue-collar working-class vote in the Rust Belt in exchange for Latinos, because they see Latinos and people like that as being the new big voting bloc. And so they were willing to trade the white blue-collar worker for the Latino vote. I guess they thought it was a good trade-off. But in doing so, they've lost the blue-collar, working blue-collar vote, which includes a lot of blacks. But they've also underestimated or overestimated how much Latinos would vote for Democrats. Remember, a lot of people who come here to this country, Latinos and people, Spanish-speaking people come from south of the border. Many of those people are Catholic and they're conservative, and they come here and they start businesses. So the idea that they think they're going to get all the Latino vote is wrong. Trump's going to get a decent percentage of the Latino vote. And at the same time, they're kind of ignoring the black community. And they're seeing that, excuse me, and people in the black community are now realizing actual benefits in their life. Their lives are better. They can feel it. They know if their lives are better. They're not stupid. And they realize that Trump has done more for them than Obama ever did or any Democrats have ever done. And so a lot of them are waking up to this fact. It's suddenly becoming kind of cool to be a Trump supporter, even if you're a black person. But let me tell you the real magic number that the Democrats and the real misplay that the Democrats have made here in the black community, and why I believe that Trump will get somewhere around 15% and double the amount of votes he got from the black community in 2020. It's because this is something a lot of people don't think about, but a lot of black people are religious. A lot of black people are religious. And the black community, the religious black community that's been voting for Democrats for a very long time, are looking at the modern day Democratic Party, and it is so far from Christian values that they simply could not take it anymore. They have no choice but either to stay home or vote Republican. Because as a Christian black person, it's very difficult, as a Christian any person, let alone black, white, or any other. And the same, remember, a lot of people who come from south of the border are Catholic. So the Democrats don't realize that their assault on religion is going to be a major factor with the black and Latino community, who they assume are just going to show up and vote for them all the time. But they're underestimating the fact that these black supporters, particularly in the religious community, are not stupid. Black people are not stupid. The Democrats think they're stupid, but they're not. They know exactly what's going on in their lives, and people in the black religious community clearly can see what's going on, whether it's abortion, whether it's their assault on religious liberty, free speech, prayer in school, all these issues where Trump is coming out and leading the way, passing legislation or ruling by executive order, prayer in schools. He just did that this past week. He's got people like Kanye West out there. He's got people like Diamond and Silk. So he's got black ministers, out there across the country. So I think that the Democrats are highly underestimating the black Christian vote and even the Latino Christian vote as well. And I think that that is where that 8% could likely come from, so that he could go from getting 8% to 15 and possibly even 20. I don't expect it will be as high as 30, but if he were even to get 20, the rule has always been for many, many, many years, I've been hearing this, that if a Republican could ever get 20% of the black vote, the Democrats would be done for a generation. And the fact that not only did they lose, say, 10 or 15% of the black vote, they gave away the blue-collar middle-class vote. They just gave it away. Said, here, you can have it. We're going to take the Latinos. Huge miscalculation on the part of the Democrats. Well, it looks like we have a Joe Pienka update. As you know, Technofog recently discovered that Joe Pienka has turned up at the San Francisco field office with a promotion. And then once they made that public, his name was scrubbed off their website. Now, Joe Pienka is a very, very important character. I think he was Halper's handler. He was the liaison between Peter's been stroking us and the confidential informants that were running into the Trump campaign. He also was the agent who was with Peter's been stroking us when they ran the game on Flynn. He was one of the chief supervisors in Crossfire Hurricane. He reported directly to Peter's been stroking us. He was working with Comey and Peter's been stroking us to entrap Flynn. And of course, he was one of the people who lied to the FISA court. And we know that the House Intelligence Committee, Nunes tried to get him, interview with him. The Goodlatte Gowdy Committee tried to get him. The DOJ and the FBI would not produce Pienka. They keep hiding this guy. There's something that's about this guy. They do not want him talking. And so they try to move him out to San Francisco. In fact, he disappears in January 2017, right after Chuck Grassley sends the FBI a notice and says, yes, we want you to produce Joe Pienka for an interview. And they refuse, and the next thing you know, he turns up in the summer of 2019. He turns up in San Francisco as a field office coordinator there, the top guy at the San Francisco FBI field office. And now, as Technofog has done a deeper dive into Pienka, we find out that his wife is named Melissa. And she is also an attorney, and she works for, guess who? Baker Hostetler. Yes, the Democratic activist law firm that's connected to all things Democrat. The DNC, the Right Reverend Clinton, the big donors, and most importantly, Confusion GPS. That's right. And how do we know that? Well, we know that because of the bank records that were released, because they were forced to be released by Devin Nunes. And we know that Fusion GPS was paid $523,651 by Baker Hostetler. And that was when they were paying Fusion GPS to work on the Magnitsky thing, to go after Bill Browder, which involved bringing in Maria Vetselnitskaya. And so they are part of a cabal and have connections with. And look at the date. Look at the date. Baker Hostetler hired Fusion GPS to work for them between the following dates. Listen to this. March 7th, 2016 is when they were contracted. March 7th, 2016. A key time frame in the coup. And they were ended their contract on October 31st, 2016, about a week before the election. So through the entire meat and potatoes of all the crap that was going on in the attempt to destroy Trump, take down Trump, do the coup, March to October 2016 In that period of time, Fusion GPS paid $523,000 by Baker Hostetler to do the Magnitsky Act, to try to get that repealed, to attack and dig up dirt on Bill Browder. That's why Veselnitskaya was brought here. And of course, just conveniently, she shows up at the Trump Tower meeting. So here we have Pienka's wife is working for Baker Hostetler, which is connected to Confusion GPS, which gets you to the Magnitsky stuff, the Veselnitskaya situation, Glenn Simpson, and the Trump Tower meeting. Is that why they're hiding Pienka? Because of what he and his wife even may have been involved in regarding the Trump Tower frame-up? Because he was part of the Crossfire Hurricane operation, and he was running, on behalf of Peter's Been Stroking Us, the informants. And who allowed Veselnitskaya into the country? Well, Preet Bharara on the direction of Loretta Lynch. She wasn't allowed to be in the country. They had to give her a special waiver, and she got one quick. Normally, it would take you months and months and months and months, lawyers and more lawyers and more lawyers to battle to get something like that done. She got it done quick. And she just shows up at Trump Tower with this information, even though she didn't come here to do that. She came here to work on behalf of the Russian government and an oligarch in Russia to try to get the Magnitsky Act overturned. She gets here, meets Glenn Simpson, Fusion GPS, and next thing you know, she shows up at Trump Tower with this whole setup. My friends, there's a lot of smoke. There's a lot of smoke around this dude, and certainly of course, we know that John Durham certainly has to have discovered the importance of Joe Pienka in all of this. And I would have to think at this point, he's either interviewed him or will be interviewing him. He's a key player, an absolute key player. We also have the Gateway Pundit doing a deep dive on Halper. I do not have time to go into the full dive. I've done a couple deep dives on this guy myself, and some of this is reiterating what I've already discovered, but here's the bottom line from the report. Of course, we now have identified Halper, the Fat Man, as the source 2 in the IG report. We find out now that Halper has had a long history with the FBI and is a bad history. This report reveals that Halper was the FBI's source to take down Trump. Records prove that Halper is or was a cocaine addict. A cocaine addict. And he was released as an FBI informant for his over-aggressiveness toward handling agents and his addiction problems and the arrests that followed, and the fact that he was using a pusher, a drug dealer he was regularly visiting, who was known by law enforcement as being a guy who was selling cocaine. And he was probably captured on video making buys and things. So that's why they had to boot him out as an informant. He was an informant for the FBI. They find out he's got these drug problems. They find out that he's got an aggressive nature, working with other people. That his handlers. He didn't play nicely, you might say. Not a very nice guy. And so the FBI releases him as an informant. But then they bring him back. They bring him back for the coup, knowing good and well he's dirty, very, very dirty. Whether or not he's still an addict, we do not know. But we do know he's still an over-aggressive son of a bitch. We know that from Papagalopoulos' description of his conversations with Halper. Which, by the way, all conversations that Halper had with Carter Page and Papagalopoulos were recorded. The FBI was listening. He was wired. He was wired. So he's fired by the FBI. Then he's brought back to come in and work on the Trump-Russia hoax and the frame-up of Page, Flynn, and Papadopoulos. And, of course, so we know that Halper, the Fat Man, conducted espionage on his targets before a formal investigation had been opened. That is a crime. Halper conducted espionage on his targets before a formal investigation had been opened. This is even in the IG report. Halper was working for the Crossfire Hurricane team, and they brought him in August of 2016, according to the FBI, and we know that that is bullshit. We know that's bullshit. He lured Papadopoulos over to London in the spring, March. Earlier than that, actually. Earlier than that. He lured Papadopoulos over, I think it was in February, and Papadopoulos took the assignment in March. But he was also dealing with Flynn back in 2015. So I'm not sure exactly who he was working for at that time. Maybe he was working for the CIA, and then he got passed on to the FBI. Either that, or he was working for the FBI, and they're lying about this August 2016 as being the time frame when they welcomed him back as an informant after having fired him because of his abusive behavior and his cocaine addiction, and they don't like the fact that they got a confidential informant who's going to a very well-known drug dealer's house to buy cocaine on a regular basis, and he's probably being videotaped by narc agents doing so. And of course we know that his handler was likely Joe Pienka, which is another reason why they probably don't want to allow Joe Pienka to testify. Mr. Durham, I think you got to talk to Mr. Pienka. You will learn a lot. Well, we have CNN's Jake Crapper. Even Jake Crapper on his show has poured some cold water on the Democrats' fantasy of this Lev Parnas being their new star witness. We even have CNN's Jake Crapper telling his little panel there on CNN that Lev Parnas has serious credibility problems and that Democrats think this guy is the second coming of Teddy Roosevelt. He's not. No, he's got a lot of problems. This guy's whole story is crazy. Yeah, Trump knew everything I was doing. He knew every move I was making. Huh? I mean, anybody would believe that is nuts. You gotta be nuts. Trump derangement syndrome is the only explanation for it. No reasonable person with a 70 IQ could listen to this guy's story and think it has any basis in reality. It's crazy. Well, let's see. It looks like Bernie won the debate the other night, according to the polls. I don't know how you could just, determine that. They were all so bad from what I saw, and I didn't see much, but I saw enough. And right now, there is a national poll. There's a national poll showing Bernie Sanders, for the first time I've heard, leading in a national poll, showing Sanders at 20, Biden at 19, Warren dipping now down to 12, Bloomberg up to 9, and Buttigieg just kind of rolling around there at the base around 6. Klobuchar, they don't say. And that's a real problem, because at the same time that we get this poll coming out, we also learn that Bernie Sanders supporters have made it perfectly clear to Tom Perez, and I'm not sure if they've done this verbally or in writing, but they've made it perfectly clear to Tom Perez that if you screw Bernie one more time and cost him the nomination, we will boycott the election. Well, they will anyway. If Bernie doesn't win the nomination, the Bernie bros are not going to come out and vote for Biden. I can assure you of that. They stayed home in 2016. That's a big reason why Trump won and Hillary lost. Let's see. We have The Blaze reporting that Ilhan Omar is currently under investigation by 3 different agencies of issues regarding campaign finance violations, immigration, falsifying immigration forms, and somehow school loans, cheating on school loans. We have a Democratic Senator, Ron Wyden, has just sent a letter to A.G. Barr and Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray, urging them not to cooperate with Grassley and Johnson in their recent request for materials relating to Alexandra Chalupa. You see, the FBI has mirrored copies of Chalupa's phone and computer. You know how they got them? She gave them to them. Yes, that's right. She gave her phone and computer to the FBI to mirror them. So, because she believed that she was being a victim of a Russian hack and wanted them to investigate. So Grassley and Johnson found out, and now they've requested a copy of that phone and computer. Oh my goodness. The hits just keep on coming.